Hello, welcome to Outmouse Labs. My name is Penny, and I'm glad you're here. Today's going to be an RPG Maker MZ coding tutorial. We're going to be doing a little bit of JavaScript and creating a plugin. This plugin does a few things. It allows you to control how fast you fade in and fade out the screen. It also allows you to use a custom image so that you can fade in and out to any color or even image you like. So first of all, let's start by taking a look at what it does. This person will activate the fade out and then fade in. So we're fading out to this sort of gradient, and then we fade back in. Notice that we faded out much slower than we faded back in. So how did that work? Well, let's take a look. I close out of here and go into RPG Maker. Open them up and take a look at these. So we have a plugin command called fade out plus. You set the wait time, how long you want to take in milliseconds, the picture ID you want to use, the PNG name of the file you want to use, which must be in image pictures, the picture origin, so center or top left, the X, the Y, the scale, and the blend mode. Then we have a wait that waits 200 frames. 200 frames is a little more than 3 seconds, so it waits that amount of time. Then we immediately have it dissolve back in over the course of 1.5 seconds, which is about 100 frames. So then it works exactly the same way, and it fades right back in. So that is how the plugin works. Now let's talk about how to make it. All right, so we are going to start at the top. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see a little better. So just like always, we have a header. This is not necessary, but I like to do it with the name of the plugin and the name of the file. Then we come into our documentation, which starts with /*:. We set our target to MZ. We get the plugin a description, an author, and a version. That all shows up in the plugin manager. If you look at this plugin, you will see the name, the author, and the description, and then the help file, which we'll get to. Then we create our commands. So fade out plus, which has a description and what you see. So you'll see the name fade out plus, you'll see the description, which you'll will see in the plugin command manager. So if we go into an event, we go to plugin command, you choose dissolve from the list, or whatever you call it, and then fade out plus, or fade in plus. So that's where all that information comes from. That's how we set it up, is here. Okay, so next up, we have an argument. So the command can have any number of arguments, which begin with @arg, a name, what the what the developer sees in the engine, the description, what type it is, and the default, so in this case number 1000. Now those types come from, one moment, I'll pull it up and show it to you. There may be other resources, but this is the way I have always looked it up. There we go, it's loading. I think one moment, I'm sorry. Clicked on the wrong thing there. There we go. Okay, so I've shown you guys this before. It's this website. You can choose to translate it, but the important information is in English here, so you can see the different types. So @string, @multiline string, @file, etc. gives you each one. If you translate it, you can get some idea of what each one is for, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so we create our args. Then we have a picture ID, also a number. We have a file name. This is a string. So a string is any kind of word in parentheses, single or double quotes, it does not matter. Just make sure that you're consistent. We have the origin. So again, this is a number, and built into the engine, 0 is upper left or 1 is center. So we tell the player that in the description, or sorry, the developer. Args, we'll continue on with our picture X, which is a number, our picture Y, which is a number, our scale, which is a number from 0 to 100, default 100. Scale Y, same. Blending, again, we tell the developer what that means. 0 equals normal, 1 equals additive, 2 equals multiply, and 3 equals screen. You're probably always going to want to use normal, but you could play around with it, see if there's an effect you like. Then we do another command. It's exactly the same. It just fades in, but as far as this part, it's exactly the same. And then we have our help file. So anything after help will show up in the help. Just teaches the developer how to use it. That's what shows up in the engine in the plugin manager. Okay, now we get to the actual code. All right, so this first line, if you've been following along with my other tutorials, you already know this creates an object. The object is either the object that already exists, in case you're using some of my other plugins, or a new object. Then we create an object within this one called dissolve. First thing we do, we put in our object, or kind of box, the name, which is AML dissolve. This must be exactly the same as the file name without the JS. We set up our parameters. So we put parameters in the box. We use the plugin manager from RPG Maker MZ. .parameters aml.dissolve.name. Now, I've been seeing a plugin manager EX in some other people's code that I've been looking at. I've not yet figured out what that is, but that's something I'm going to look into, and I'll let you guys know when I do. But for now, plugin manager.parameters, and then your name should work just fine. You're going to register the command. Again, you need your name. You need the name of the command as a string, so between quotes. Parentheses args gives you access to all of your arguments, and then you're going to define variables inside of the command based on your arguments. So this says the wait time, the local wait time is equal to a number version of the wait time we set up, up there. So it's either going to be whatever the developer puts in for the wait time or 1000 by default. We do that across the board for each of our parameters. Then we have two that are not parameters. Delay is math.floor rounds down. So we can say wait time, say 1000, divided by 255. It's 255 because that is 0 to 255 is how opacity is controlled. So if we need to go we ultimately need to do 255 clicks. We don't know exactly how many milliseconds we want to wait between clicks because the developer gets to set that. So by doing the wait time divided by 255, we can calculate how many milliseconds we need to wait between each iteration. Then we set our opacity to 0 to start. We finish out our various args, and then we move into our execution. So you'll see that this is a self-activating or self-calling function. So you have these two parentheses here, this one and this one, create an internal function. Then these two run that function right away. Inside of that internal function, we create a function called loop. And then inside of the loop, we set timeout. This is like a delay built into JavaScript. It waits a certain number of milliseconds before running the code. Then we use a command from the engine, which is GameScreen.showPicture to show our picture. And it uses all of those arguments that we had the developer set. Then we have the opacity go up by 1. So again, it started at 0, it goes up by 1. As long as our opacity is less than 255, we're going to loop, which means we're going to recursively call this same function again. And then we're going to wait the delay, which is, again, the wait time divided by 255. So what all of this does when it's said and done is it shows a picture 255 times with an interval of milliseconds that is equal to the amount of time we want the whole thing to take divided by 255. Hopefully that made sense. It's a lot of information, but hopefully that made sense. Okay. Next up, we do the same thing again, this time with our fade in. It's almost identical. You'll notice that it looks exactly the same until we get to here. In this case, we're starting at 255, right? So we want the opacity to be 255 minus our current opacity until it gets to 0. So 255 minus opacity. and then we just add the opacity just like before. So this is the only thing that's different. So fade back in, we're making the picture disappear slowly. So again, quickly just to try and summarize, we create an object, we set up our parameters, we register our commands, and what our commands do is they take all of those arguments and they say, set up a picture based on these arguments and slowly change the opacity either up or down over the course of a number of milliseconds equal to what the developer sets to wait time. So I am going to slowly go through this so that you can copy it if you'd like. I'll also try to include a copy of the file. It'll be over on my itch page and I'll link to it. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Last thing I will go ahead and show you is where to put the file. You go to Image, Pictures, and it can be anything in here. So for instance, we used the picture gradient. There. We use gradient fade in our example. Gradient fade without the PNG. Okay, that's it. Hopefully this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. This is a great example of kind of using a mixture of the built-in code as well as standard JavaScript and creating a plugin command that's actually pretty useful. I'm going to be using this in the game I'm making. All right, take care and happy game making.